It's not ad nauseum because there's no ad nauseum. It's just Past in Flames combo.
This is going to be interesting. So looking at Blaine's deck,
this is the kind of matchup that Steven is probably going to hope to avoid. The card of probably scariest for him in this deck is Delver of Secrets. So, because Blaine is able to play Delver of Secrets and then sit back behind Daze, Force of Will. Stifle not as good in this match. In this Stifle as a land destruction spell. Since we're in game 3, he almost certainly has Surgical Extraction and Pyroblast, Red Elemental Blast, Termod's Crypt.
Sure.
And Counterbalance. So
I mean, I think Stifle is actually kind of relevant, though, if you're looking at Tendrils, at least in its ability to shut that down.
I suppose since he's not playing Ad Nauseam has this ability where when it combos off, it'll then duress their opponent 4 times before trying for the actual kill spell. Past in Flames doesn't have that as much, and actually can be a pretty... This, I think, my guess here, we don't know which match went to which game went to which player, but post-board, this seems like a fairly rough matchup for Steven. He does have 1 Ad Nauseam in his board. So he can side in, it looks like, to a quasi-Ant deck. He has 4 Infernal Tutor, 4 Burning Wish in his sideboard, 4 Burning Wish. 1 Ad Nauseam and 1 Ill-Gotten Gains.
So yep, he could get kind of tricky there if he so chose.
Right.
Blaine Patrick, on the other hand, goes into countertop.
Blaine Patrick has 2 Sensing Divine Top, 2 Counterbalance, so he probably does go into countertop in this matchup also. He has Fork Bolts, Lightning Bolts, and his Chain Lightning in his main deck. All those will come out, and he'll become much more of a control deck.
And I think that's exactly where he wants to be in this matchup. He wants to be the one setting the tone of the game.
Steven is running 2 Cabal Therapy in a deck with 0 creatures in it. He does run Forge Ataxian Probe.
And 4 Duress.
But he is running, say, Cabal Therapy over Thoughtseize, for example. Which is an interesting choice.
Why do you think that is, Matthias? I mean, the Ad Nauseam's in the sideboard. It's not like it's doing much for him game 1.
I'm not entirely sure. Would be my first answer. In the situation that your opponent has 2 spells with the same name, and if you have seen this whole hand the entire time, Cabal Therapy will be a better play than Thoughtseize because it can get 2 cards, the other ones only get 1. Outside of that, probably would be preferred as Thoughtseize.
Probably so, but looks like the players are shuffling up.
My guess is that we'll see Steven on the play.
Seems like he's thinking very hard about his hand.
And actually, no, Blaine on the play. So Delver won the game. Delver got a game 1. And turn 1 Delver Secrets is exactly what Blaine wants to have here. He has another Delver. He has a counterbalance.
Yep.
Has to crack the fetch line now because Blaine does play Stifle. So even if it's not time to go off yet, Steven's going to need to make sure all his mana are actually his lands are all actually lands.
Absolutely.
So actually, what we found out is that Steven did lose game 2, but Steven chose to be on the draw for game 3 and ended up mulliganing to 6.
Why would you choose to be on the draw?
If there's enough, it's a he is playing a critical mass deck where, basically Steven sits around until he says, okay, now it's time. His deck does care about having more spells, so if his deck doesn't have an ability to do a quick kill, it's better to do a more robust kill. Both decks are pretty light on lands, so maybe he's hoping that, there's a better chance of both decks mulligan a fair amount, so the extra card could be pretty relevant.
So Steven does ponder and opt not to shuffle.
Blaine,
seems good for him.
Delver does not flip right away, fortunately for Steven.
In for 1, Steven Sarantopoulos at 18 life.
And Blaine's going to just probably run out of counterbalance now.
Seems good.
We don't know what's on top of his deck, so it's a little blind for both players, but still very strong for Blaine.
So at this point, it looks like you have Blaine Patrick's deck, which is almost exclusively 1-drops, with the exception of looks like Force, Daze, and Tarmogoyf. But
that's true. Everything else is probably a 1-drop. So he really can only counter 1s and 0s, but which actually is, well, most of Steven's deck.
Yep, and
you can try to preordain and no, it's a wasteland.
Okay,
you can have your preordain.
That could be bad.
Don't play any Lotus Petals though.
We do have 4 LEDs and 4 Lotus Petals from Steven Sarantopoulos.
Yep. Blaine does, I believe, he has a Tarmogoyf, a Delver, a Wasteland, and perhaps is it another Delver? And a Divining Top. The top is very, very important to you.
Oh, yeah.
And he has the untap. That's going to be real bad for Steven. He's going to get countertop going with another Delver, so he can really manipulate it however he wants to.
That's going to be rough.
It's going to be really hard.
Real rough for Steven Sarantopoulos.
At this point, Blaine may just run out the top, not the second Delver. Probably the second Delver, depending on how many times he thinks he needs to spin the top to prevent a combo.
So there's the top. Now, it does cut Blaine on mana a little bit. Obviously, he doesn't need a whole lot of it. But
no, once the Delvers flips, Blaine's only goal from here on out is to flip the Delvers. And once he does, he won't need any more mana, really.
So we're going to see Steven Sarantopoulos.
I think he's gonna go for this. He's debating. He's gonna go for the second Delver. And then, with Steven at 17, that will be once they flip, which they probably will. That will be 3 hits. He has them on a 3-turn clock. Steven has basically 3 turns to combo through a countertop, which isn't a position I would want to be in.
Right. So we did just reach time in the round. And
we're
going to have a brief time extension.
Yeah, brief time extension as they had to move to the feature match table
for these players. But
even so, Blaine only needs 3 attacks. This game, I don't think this game will end up with a winner and a loser.
This game is going to be pretty quick in either direction. Hard to say at this point, although countertop is definitely a soft lock. But
looking pretty good here.
Let's see what Steven Sarantopoulos can do to get out of this.
Thing is, Steven probably needs to try for something this turn. And he's 0, all right. He's going to blind. He doesn't want to use his mana yet, in case he actually has to use it for something relevant. But he's going to see maybe there's a land on top. If there is, well, sure, yeah. I don't really want to show you my hand, so. Well, he's going to top in response.
He's going to cold it.
And he would have hit land, goose. Okay, which means his Delvers cannot flip. But no, can't see his hand.
Okay.
So now, if Steven can full combo without using any 0 drops, Steven has a chance to win right now.
This is going to be rough.
I think Steven doing some math, seeing if he has it.
Now,
Blaine's got to be pretty unhappy with that series of decks. Steven does not, so, well.
And he really doesn't have to. He's not under a ton of pressure right now.
Steven, he's under pressure of multiple top activations, really. I'm not sure what Blaine is doing. Cards haven't changed since he last looked. Perhaps maybe he wants to draw the Mongoose? Now wait, was the Goose on top there?
The Goose was on top.
How did the Goose make its way on top? Didn't he counter the
He countered the Gitaxian Probe with the Nimble Mongoose.
Oh wait, it costs 1. It costs 1.
Yes, it does.
Sometimes I forget these things because you don't actually pay 1 mana for it.
No, you never pay mana for Gitaxian Probe. I had to think about it for a second. I was like, wait, doesn't he want the land on top?
That makes much more. All right, now I understand. Anyway, all right, back to our game. The problem is that with this, Blaine has so many good. I would want to try to combo through it if at all possible. Is that once Blaine gets this many countertop activations, it gets very difficult for Steven to combo through it. Blaine will probably just play the fetch land and pass the turn here. Maybe seeing if he has an instant to put on top. If not, cracking a fetch land and trying again, all the while I mean, he has so many chances to hit on counterbalance.
Wasteland.
Yeah, keeping
on the Underground Sea, the Bruised Land.
Sure.
For Steven Sarantopoulos.
He doesn't need very many lands. They're much better for Steven anyway.
Definitely not.
Brainstorm and step.
Brainstorm.
No reason to let him have that. Put counterbalance trigger on the stack. Debating how much he cares. Yeah, he'll look at it.
He's concerned.
Well, if it's free, it's free.
Land, Goose.
Goose is still there, which he knew the Goose was there, so Goose, fetch land. Yep. At this point, probably doesn't want any of those cards, so we should expect a fetch land crack next turn with an attempt, with the hope that he can flip the Delvers. With Steven at 12, flipping the Delvers is quite relevant.
Absolutely. That would become a huge problem.
So Blaine has one more basically he can counter any one, or he can choose to counter all ones for this turn or all zeros for this turn.
Right. And Steven's deck without zeros and ones is
interesting. Steven choosing not to try to flip the Delvers.
Is there going to be a good time to try? I
mean, the opportunity would be with the fetch land. You would. Steven drawing the Mongoose? No, good. He's drawing.
Scalding Tarn?
Yeah, which is great. I think he just continues to wasteland Steven, actually. Going off just Island is very difficult, and with the Delvers on the board, he's in a great position for Blaine. So it's gonna fetch.
All right.
I'm not sure why. Is he going for? He might be going for Tarmogoyf, which that seems a little hasty to me. I don't see a reason for that.
Greedy.
I would just wasteland him and lay back.
Now, I could ostensibly see Blaine justify it as, well, if I stick this Goyf and I flip Delvers, then he's just straight dead.
Yeah. This plays fine. He still has one land up with a fetch land. It's probably pretty good. But the problem is he really only gets one top activation. I would much prefer to just waste him.
It's a play that seems much more understandable when you look at where they are in the round. I mean,
right? Perhaps Blaine, if the time has been called in the round, this is a very understandable play. But does give Steven, because all Blaine has is when Steven plays a spell here, if Blaine wants to counter it, Blaine either has to blindly counterbalance at it or fetch and spin the top. And in that case, that'll probably find whatever mana cost he's looking for. So I mean, it's still a very good situation for Blaine. This is so time has just been called though. This is turn 0 for Steven.
So we're going to see Steven Sarantopoulos fetch out off Polluted Delta.
That shouldn't be an issue. Thanks to the Tarmogoyf, 9 damage is... Blaine will have 3 turns worth of attacking. 9 damage is no problem.
And if Blaine manages to flip the Delvers next turn, that's game.
That is game. If Blaine finds an instant. So Blaine will probably spin during his upkeep. At some, Steven's got to go for it this turn.
Yep. So we're going to see Steven Sarantopoulos just hoping, beyond all hope, that the top of Blaine Patrick's deck is something glib like Force, Goyf, maybe. But
all forcibles. All the forcibles. Well, that might not even be that. I'm not sure.
Dark Ritual.
All right.
Blaine's going to crack.
Now see, with that play, I actually would prefer to blind counterbalance there. Because you have a chance to hit a 1. If a Dark Ritual resolves, that's probably still okay.
It's acceptable.
You can have you can have one after that.
So let's see, Blaine Patrick, what you got? Stifle, Ponder, Mongoose, lock down all the ones.
All ones. Almost all of the rituals. Well, Lion's Eye Diamonds and Lotus Petals. There is a chance Sarantopoulos could combo out here.
Sure.
Not a good one, but there is one.
Like it, but it's there. I mean, at this point, Blaine Patrick has said, "I have you dead unless ...
Right.
So we see an LED, which is going to stick.
Yep. At this point, yep, it's only 1-drops. So go ahead.
Storm count for the turn.
Especially with
2.
that fetch land crack, you'd rather keep a 0 on top, because remember, you always have that emergency putting Divining Top on top of the deck to counter 1, so you get like an extra chance to change your counterbalance number.
Right. So we're looking at a storm count now of Ritual, LED, so storm count 3 for Steven Sarantopoulos.
Yep.
He needs to hit storm count of 8.
So he's making a lot of mana. And there's a Past in Flames being discarded.
Okay. This is now going to get a little spicy.
Now, the last card he discarded appears to be a Cabal Ritual. So, one question is, with almost all his search effects cost 1 mana, if I'm not mistaken, which means he can resolve this Past in Flames, and I'm not sure it matters for much.
So we're looking at
Tendrils, Ritual, Probe, Preordained Ponder. All his search spells are one drops.
Now, to be fair, it doesn't really matter at this point if the search spells even resolve. They just need to bolster the storm count.
So we have 1, 2, 3. Past and Flames is 4.
Past and Flames will be 4.
Past and Flames 4. Tendrils, and I don't think it's there.
It's not enough.
Not enough. Blaine Patrick wins
GG.
2 games to 1.
Wow.
A little bit of a tense moment there at the end of Steven Sarantopoulos.